How's it going, guys? So, I wanted to go ahead and discuss something that Thorin actually went and discussed in a Thorin's Thoughts video that I will link in the description below. But in the video, he goes ahead and talks about the discussion of mechanics in League of Legends, and I thought it was an interesting topic and something that I've really thought about quite a bit. And so I wanted to kind of give my input and kind of discuss it with him or go ahead and put it as a response video. Uh, so yeah, I mean, in the video he goes ahead and discusses why uh, League of Legends is kind of difficult to have the term mechanics, right? Like it's difficult to have that term because everyone has a different description and a different idea of what mechanics are, and because of that, it makes discussing League of Legends very confusing when you're discussing players and talent and the quality or the skill level of a player. And I completely agree with him. I think that League of Legends is a kind of hard game to define mechanics. I think MOBAs in general are pretty hard to describe mechanics. League of Legends and or not League of Legends, StarCraft 2, like RTSs in general, FPS games are really kind of easy. Fighting games are pretty simple to describe mechanics and the difference between game knowledge, mechanics, and strategies and things like that. I think overall are pretty much are a little bit easier, but MOBAs have a certain element to it. And I think he goes over an idea of being different types of mechanics. You know, whether you're just skill, like you have a very high skill cap where you're moving really fast, you can react to things, you're very quick with your hands, you have high APM, things like that. And the difference between another player that has very good positioning, is very intelligent, and knows what's going on, and that mechanics in that sense. Um, I agree with him to a certain extent, and I disagree with him to a certain extent. So I mean, I don't go ahead and watch his video for the full idea of what he's saying. I just want to give a quick description. I want you to go ahead and watch his video because I think it's really interesting. I think it's a great video to go ahead and get you kind of your mindset into helping the community find a general consensus of what is mechanics. And I've talked to a lot of pro players. I mean, I'm at the LCS every week working, and I've talked to a lot of rioters and a lot of pro players and analysts about what mechanics is and what they consider to be mechanics, and I've sort of built my own idea of what mechanics is. So I mean, I want to grab into it. So for League of Legends, I think there's three different types of ways to grade a player to get skill levels of players quantified. Um, I think it comes down to mechanics, game knowledge, and something I call game mechanics. And so like I'll go ahead and eat into each one individually, but like so to me like saying pure mechanical skill is just your ability to hit and click buttons quickly with accuracy, right? Efficiently being able to click and hit buttons accurately and do what you want with your keyboard and mouse, pretty much, and when you want to do it, right? So being able to execute and pull things off, that's to me is mechanics, right? It's your skill cap. It's the quickness and accuracy at which you can move your hands, right? Simple. So I guess I'll compare it to like a real sports, like in basketball, right? Like I consider that athleticism, right? How high you can jump, how fast you can move, uh, your field of vision, how quickly you react and see things, stuff like that, right? Um, then of course going from there, then I think game knowledge, pretty self-explanatory. It's how well you know the game, right? Where should you be? Um, you know, I should ward here. I need to use this skill here. I need to buy this item here. Really basic things like your general game knowledge. So like even you compare it to basketball again, what uh, you know, I should take a shot here. I should pass the ball here. I should shift and this player lays to the left, so I'm going to shift my defense to the right, so he has to go right. Things like that, right? So you're going to have to it's how much you know about the game. It's your basketball IQ, right? So it's your League of Legends IQ. It's how well you know your opponent's abilities, like your opponent's champion's abilities and your champion's abilities and like the range of certain abilities, things like that. It's your all overall game knowledge, right? And so to me, game mechanics, right? So like a player like Doublelift, right? Doublelift has very high game mechanics and very high game knowledge, right? And so you're discussing like, okay, well, like everyone has game knowledge at a high level. Everyone has a high mechanic level. And guys, I'm talking about pro players. I'm not talking about like solo queue or like you know silver players, gold players, whatever. I'm talking about professional players. So we're talking about. So we got over mechanics, which is just hitting buttons. We've gone over game knowledge, which is just your knowledge and sort of your brain of how it works with League of Legends. And then the third one, and I think the main separating factor is game mechanics, which is probably it's an idea or concept that a lot of people really haven't thought about. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it, but the best way to explain it would probably be it's like a child between the two, between mechanics and game knowledge, that go ahead and create something that's completely different. So it's to me, it's having the idea in your head, like knowing a combo with like Renekton, right, where you're gonna dash in, you're gonna stun, you're gonna Q, and then you're gonna dash out, something like that, like a burst combo or something like that. You're gonna ult in with Ari, you're gonna charm someone, you're gonna send out the orb, use spirit. You have all kinds of different abilities and certain combos that you're gonna use. But being able to do that on the fly and execute it without thinking about it. So you have this game knowledge, but it's become so fluid and so natural to you that becomes your it becomes a part of your mechanics, right? Because you just know, you know how to just execute and pull it off without a hitch, right? And so I think the level at which you can execute without thinking, right? Because that split second of like, okay, this is what I should do, is going to cost you, right? So if you have someone like Faker, right? Faker doesn't think, oh, I should do this now. He just knows to do it, right? Because he's played the game enough, he has that game knowledge, and it's just built in, so ingrained into his head that he just pulls out the mechanics, right? And so like the reason why I break it down this way is for League of Legends, in my opinion, League of Legends is not that mechanically difficult, right? When you compare it to a game like StarCraft or something like really Twitch focused like an FPS, so like you're talking about like Twitch-based shooters like Unreal Tournament or like Counter-Strike, something like that, there's a certain level where the skill cap is very high and very few people can go ahead and reach that level. When you're talking about professional League of Legends players, most of the time players are at a high enough skill cap. I think League of Legends has a low enough skill cap where professionals can hit that pretty easily. Like I think Korean players are pretty much at the skill level that you can hit just with pure mechanics, being able to hit skill shots, being able to just react and move their hands very quickly. And I think the difference between a top tier, like I think when you're splitting hairs a little bit, like that difference in mechanical skill isn't extremely large. I think, and then of course with game knowledge, everyone knows the game, everyone plays the game a ton, everyone has an idea and a certain database in their head of what skill shots are, what they do, how the range on them are, what burst damage they do with this item, what itemization is, what items you can get here, the amount of damage they can take or give or output. I'm sorry. With certain items at a certain point in the game and things like that. Like I think that overall game knowledge is pretty much universal, and I think people at a pro level pretty much know that and have that down pat. So when you're talking about mechanics and game knowledge between the two, I think the skill level or the skill gap between the two, between a top tier player and a mid tier player, are pretty minimal. I think the big difference that you see is with game mechanics, is where that game knowledge transfers over to mechanics in a way that's so seamless that that split second decision that you have to make, you can make it and just know that something's going to happen and get the outcome that is going to happen. So like understanding that, okay, he has these items at this point in the game, I have these items, I'm at this level, I can take him out and get out with a sliver of health left or like a little bit of health. I can outplay him here. I know it, right? And knowing that you can do that and outplay and execute that, right? And without that split second of hesitation where you have to think about it, right? And I think that's where you start to see the difference. So going back to Thooorin's video, if you want to go ahead and watch that, Thooorin goes ahead and talks about like the difference between someone like Doublelift and Sneaky, right? So Doublelift obviously has a very, very high level of mechanical skill, right? Sneaky, maybe not so much. Maybe it's a mid tier, right? Maybe Sneaky has a better knowledge of positioning and itemization, or or just knowing where to be in a fight, or knowing like what he can and can't do, right? Just the overall game knowledge. Maybe Sneaky's a little higher and Doubles maybe mid tier, right? So those maybe even out, and then maybe that the combination of the two with the game mechanics, like I was saying, goes ahead and makes them both very, very top tier AD carries, right? So I mean that's where you sort of get the distinction between the two, and I think that's at least what I've been going off of in terms of mechanics. The difference between mechanics, game knowledge, and of course the third thing that I just brought in was game mechanics. And maybe I should come up with a different thing for it, just so it differentiates it a little more. But I think calling it that sort of gives you a better idea of what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, I can go ahead and break it down a little further. But I really hope you guys go ahead and watch Thooorin's video, which is very, very good. And I hope this really helped you guys get maybe a different perspective, or maybe helped you guys form your own opinions of what mechanics are. And I think it's a discussion that we need to start having a little bit more in League of Legends, or just like games in general. I think language has become like, we have the discussion of like Monte Cristo talking about rotations, right? Like what is a rotation? We had the whole thing of Kobe saying that it's not a rotation, this isn't what it's called. People are calling things certain things. What defines a gank? If a jungler just walks into lane, is that a gank? I've talked to a bunch of rioters, I've talked to a bunch of pros about different terms and things like that, and I've tried to come up with a lexicon of exact descriptions and definitions, and it's difficult. And I think until us as a community start to get it discussed and really flesh it out and start to go over things, I don't think we're really going to get that going. But I think I think bringing up the topic and having everyone having it in every else's mind that we don't have a definite description for it, and it's something that we do need to clarify and help people understand and sort of get on the same page. I think as soon as we get that idea into people's minds, it could really help the community as a whole really understand certain things. So yeah, guys, I hope you really I hope this really helped. I hope you found it interesting, or you have any comments or concerns or clarifications or criticisms or anything like that. Go ahead and post them down below, or tweet at me at KidLiquid. Go ahead and check out Thooorin's video again. Will link it down in the description below. And again, thank you for watching.